Hello, so today we'll be looking at strings and their methods. So basically a string is something which is immutable, by which we mean if I say Sagar, okay, and if I want to replace the first one, right, of 0 by say small s, right. Now this is not an legal operation, it will throw an error, right, saying str object does not support item assignment, right. Now how we want to, if we want to replace something, how can we do that? So there are two different things. We'll look at both of them. So first is a method which is called replace. Okay, let's just try that. So every time you use replace, keep in mind that you have to use the assignment again. So what I mean by that is, if we do replace, okay, of s with 0, okay, and you think this will work, but nothing will happen because this returns a string which is to be assigned to something. So if we run this and if I say print str1, it will give me the same thing. Okay, let's just try that. First we comment this out because this is an error. Yeah, so see, this gives you the same thing. Okay, so if we assign this to a new string or the same string, then you can see what difference it makes. Okay, so now if you see this, s is replaced by 0. Okay, so this is using the assignment. The other part is called slicing, which we'll be looking at later. So this is about replace. Now what we'll do is we'll just open our thing and we just do dot. So since this is a VS code, it will give you all the things that you can do with strings. Okay, so we'll go one by one. So let's talk about capitalize. So what capitalize does it? It will capitalize the first word of your string. So suppose my string has a first word which is small letters. So capitalize will always make it capital. The first word itself, the first letter itself. And now let's just run it. Yeah. So if you see here, now let's go to the second one. Okay. So what we have after capitalize is case fold. Now keep in mind, case fold is something which is very similar to lower but is very effective. So case fold and lower can be used for the same thing, but case fold can handle many much more greater cases than lower. So I would prefer using case fold over a lower, right? So let's make this as capital and then we use case fold and we assign this to a string, right, and then we print it. So as you can see, it makes it smaller, right? Now let's try another one. So center, right? So what center is, center takes two different values, right? The first one is like how big you want to make the sentence. So say suppose if you want to make the word 10 letters or say 10 something big, right? And if you don't give anything, it will take space, and if you give say 1, what it will do is it will create a string which will be of length 10, which will have 1 at their ends and this sagar in the middle. Okay, let's just test that. Yeah, so if you see, the whole length will be 10 and this thing will come at the end. If you don't give anything, it assumes space, and then let's check that, right? So if you see here, there are spaces at the end. Okay, yeah. So now after center, what is there? So we have count. So count will give you which value is present how many times. So if I want to count a in this, now see what will happen. It gives you 2. Okay, now let's move to other things. So if I do dot again, there is something called encode. So encode and decode is something we'll talk later, because it's a whole new topic of things. So let's just talk about ends with, right? So as the name suggests, ends with is something which is used to which will return your boolean value, right? So if I say str1 ends with r, okay, so it will give true or false. Let's just comment this line and we can print this, right? So it returns a boolean value if your sentence or if your word ends with something which you provide here, it will give you true or false. Right? You can have multiple things here. If I say AR also, it should work fine. And if I say AE, it will give you false. Okay. Yeah. So let's check the next one that we have. There is something called expand tabs, which we don't use mostly, so no need to look at that. So we can say find. So find, what find does is it finds you the location of the word or the value that you give there. So if I want, say if I give A, so it always starts finding from the first, and wherever it finds A, it will stop there. So it will stop at the first index, and this should give you 1. Okay, cool. So now let's move to next one. So index is also basically the same thing. It will also give you the index where it is, right? So let's just try that out using G. So it will give you the index of G. Right? So it gives you 2, and if I say find, no, let's just compare. It should also give you 2. Cool. Okay, now let's go to the next one. The format. Format is used to format different strings. So let's suppose we have some string here, right? And we have name, and we have, say, suppose age or something. Okay, so what format does is, now name and age is basically your key here, we call it as key. Now if I say name, and if I give something, so suppose we give Archana, and age we give whatever we want. Okay, now if I print this should print whatever value I give it to. Okay, let's just run it and test. Okay, okay, I'm sorry, I missed the term called age. So basically these are your keys. If you don't mention this, you'll always get an error, right? Yeah, so it prints you the same thing. Now if I don't want to give the keys, what we can do is I can simply remove the name from here and also name from here, the keys from there basically, right? And this works similarly to the last one. Okay, there is also one more way of string formatting which I like the most. So basically instead of these brackets here, what we can do is we can give you %s and %d, right? It works similar to like what we had in C++. So %s converts anything to string, whatever string we give it does that, and %g is for integers and all those things, right? And now we have to remove format, and we have to give percentage here and run it again. So basically, yeah, so these are the methods of string formatting, right? Let's move to the next one. After format map is there, which is not that useful. Index we saw, so basically it gives you the same thing. Now is alphanumeric. So let's just test this out. Okay, yeah, so this also returns a boolean value. So alphanumeric, as the name suggests, alpha is for alphabet and numeric is for numbers, right? So if a string has both alphabets and numbers, this is true for that. Okay, and also if it doesn't have numbers, it will give you true. Let's put some numbers here, it should give true. Yeah, okay. So this is about alphanumeric. Let's test what is next with I. So is alpha, so basically only alphabet now. So our word has this one here, which is a numeric character, so it should return false, right? Cool. Now let's move to what we have next is alpha. After that, what is there is ASCII, right? So it should also return your bool value depending on what you use. So basically these all lie in the ASCII zone, so it returns you true. Anything which is out of ASCII zone will return you false. And let's check what's next. So is decimal, right? So is decimal, as the name suggests, this is not a decimal, so it should give you false. Anything which is decimal, say suppose 111. So is decimal is true for anything which is of type int or something. So let's just test it out and we'll run it again, and it should give you true. If we add anything else, it should give you a false, right? Now let's check what's next. After is decimal is digit, basically the same thing. If it is a digit, it will return you true, otherwise it will return you false. Okay, yeah, false. And even if it is this, should return false. Great. So after is digit, what next is, let's see, is identifier. I mean, we don't use it much. So is lower. So is lower, if you see, it is like it will be used, at a great extent. So if you have a string, say Sagar, and if I say that is this a lower string, so basically it should return true because all the characters are lower. And if I make any one of this capital, it should return a false. So this is something which will be used quite often. So after this is numeric. Is it like only having letters and numbers, so this should return false. Yeah, so after is numeric, what's next? Let's just check out is printable. So anything which is printable is like true for this, so no need to look at this. Is space basically checks out what if it is a space or not. Is upper, right? So is upper is like inverse of is lower. So all the letters, if it is in upper character, it will return true, otherwise it should return false. So if I remove this and run it, it should return true. Yeah. Okay, so let's see what's next with us. So str1 dot, so is upper we did. So let's talk about join, right? So let's just remove it, and if I say dot join, okay, and if I give a list here, right, and if I in the list I am giving something called S, and then A, and then G, then A, and then R. Okay, and if I want to print this, right. So basically join, kind of joins all of these into a single sentence. Let's just try it out and let's just run it. You see, it joins it. So here you can give anything you want, like space, so it will give you a space. If I give you a dash, it will give a dash. Okay, so this is about join. Now let's see what's next with us. So after join we have something called ljust, which we don't use that often. Yeah, so let's move to lower. Okay, so lower, what is it does is, it is similar to your case fold. It will make everything which is into a capital into a lower string. So basically this s, it will be made to a small s. And if we print that, let's just test it. So yeah, so what's next with us after lower is else strip. So basically before else strip, let's talk about what is strip. Okay, so if I say, if I have spaces here, right, and if I want to remove the spaces, so there is always a method which is called replace, but we don't always want to use it. So for that we have something called strip. What strip does is, it will remove all the spaces which are here. Okay, so let's just run it and see. So if you see, all the spaces from here as well as here are removed. Now else strip is a part where we see that only the things from the left side will be deleted. So this should be gone. And if I say str1, and if I do str1 equals to, right, So this spaces should go. Let's just print it out and run it. So if you see now, oh my bad. So if we do else strip, all the spaces from left are gone and right are still there. Okay. Now what R strip does is it will leave whatever spaces are there in the front, and all the ending spaces will be gone. Right. Let's just try that out. Yeah. So in the beginning is there, and at the end there is no space. Okay. So now let's check what's there after else strip. Make trans and partition we don't use that much. Replace we have seen already. R find is something which is similar to find, but it will start finding from the right side, and find basically starts finding from the left side. So R index is also similar to index, but it starts from your right side and index starts from the left side. Okay, now let's just talk about something which is called split. Okay, this is also a very common thing that we'll mostly use. So if we have something called a string which is like this, and if you want that, okay, 1 2 4 and 4 they should all be into a list, and you want to do something with that, so we can do using split, right? And if I say comma, so basically what it will do is it will take comma and it will split the entire string from it and create a list for you. So now if you print a string, the str1, it should be a list. Okay, so let's talk about now R split. We have seen what split is, right? So str1 dot R split. Okay, so the first argument that you should pass is by what you want to split. So basically I want to split by comma, and after which place you want to split. So suppose if I want that, okay, 1 and 2 should be together and 4 should be getting splitted, so I'll say after 2 you do the split, right? And we assign this to str1 and we'll print str1. Okay, I'll just print it. So if you see, 1 and 2 stays together, and after that this works fine, right? So let's see what's after split. So basically this we saw, split line starts with is similar to like ends with. So basically if you want to know with what a sentence or word is starting with, if I say 1, so this should give you a bool value. See, suppose I want to print it, so it should give true. Okay, right. So let's see what's next in our list. So if I remove this str1 dot, so basically strip we saw swap case. Okay, so let's talk about swap case. So basically if I do something which is like this, and if I say I want to swap the case, so what swap case will do is this s will become small and this part will become caps. Okay, we just store it to str1 and then we print it, right? So if you see, s has become small and rest has become capitalized. Okay, now let's see what's next with us. So title, translate is not much used, so let's see upper. So if I say upper, right, and if I assign it, so basically this will convert everything to capital cases. So let's just print it. Yeah, so I think what next is there, so I don't think anything is there apart from that, right? So I should end here. Thank you.